Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Moron's Reviewing Movies 1 year anniversary. 1 year, guys. 1 year we've been at this.
We made it.
We have made it. You'd think that some of us may have left and came back or something like that. Potentially happened at some point. But you will see on the screen there is 6 morons sitting here instead of 5. We have recruited back Dave as one of probably the original moron. I actually think this may have been his idea alongside Daniel when we very first started talking about doing a little movie club. So Dave has joined us back for a special guest appearance. So a big welcome to Dave from All the Morons. You are an honorary moron for the night.
Here, guys.
We have got Dave to thank for some classical films that we have watched back in the day, such as Zulu Dawn. I think that was your one and only contribution that he had to the movie choices, but we do discuss it on a regular basis, so you have a big impact on us. And you did as well decide the star ratings for when we decided to rate these movies. I do believe that was your idea to kick us off with. We are here, however, to discuss 2 movies. We are going to be discussing District 9 and Django Unchained. But before we do that, who can remember the movies that we discussed last week, which was last Monday, not last Wednesday, because this is a different night for us to be on streaming. We don't typically go on a Wednesday.
Halloween was one.
Halloween. So
So
and
Strangers.
Oh, I forgot we did 3.
It was a triple week for Halloween week. So Halloween came in at number 26 on the Moron leaderboard with a 3.55. The Descent came in at number 30 at a 3.35, and The Strangers coming in at a 37 with a 3.10. Quite shocking to be a week where we're generally on the same basis. So this will be a really interesting week to watch because we've had a little bit extra time to watch these movies. So I hope everyone's had the time to digest them, think about what they're going to be talking about, because we are going to talk about District 9 to start with. So District 9 is a movie that was out in 2009. It says here, violence ensues after an extraterrestrial race forced to live in a slum-like conditions on Earth finds a kindred spirit and a government agent exposed to their biotechnology. Then typically I would come across and say, Dave, you start us off, but I will put it out to the floor and see if anybody wants to go in first.
I feel like I should wait till the end on this one because I feel like I'm going to disagree with everybody else. So, go on, let's go with Burnsy first for a change. We never go Burnsy.
Right, okay.
I feel like Burnsy's sitting away in the background. He's got this like mysterious fog behind him and stuff as well. So I'm thinking big things are going to happen here, Burnsy.
I'm not sure about that. I think like throughout the week is I saw that this was going to be included aliens, and I voted every single time against it when it was Daniel's choice. Because I was hoping I didn't have to watch this. So at the start, I thought it was quite boring because it seemed as if I could see what they were trying to do. They were trying to obviously set the scene for you, but it came across as like it was going to be like a documentary instead of a film. So like the first sort of 10, 15, 20 minutes, I was really struggling with it. I just didn't really have any interest in it. But once Wickus goes to the shack at Christopher's, so obviously once he's got to the stage of being infected and before he's got to the stage of being affected, once he goes to the shack and it also speeds up for there, that's when it definitely kicks on it and a far better film for me. There doesn't seem to be much character development though throughout the film. Like I don't know if it was because it was obviously all the actors were like quite a lot of them are foreign and stuff like that, whether that was the reason, but I didn't really spot any great acting throughout the film. And also Wickus he came across quite unlikable. He didn't come across as likeable at all. Maybe unlikable is a bit strong. Because he has like quite a mean streak as well at stages where he's not getting his own way and he just knocks out Christopher. at the shack because he realises that he's not going to be able to transform back into a human for that long a period of time. But the good points in the film is after like the first, I'd say, half hour, I did really get right into the film, which was quite surprising for me, because I don't really enjoy any kind of ones that have got aliens and such. Like, it's got to be more realistic for me and just like humans for the usual films I've scored higher.
Humans.
Sorry?
Humans only movies. That's what happened.
But it was a really like bizarre film, but it was really imaginative in terms of how I've never seen a film like it before. It wasn't like edge of the seat stuff throughout it, but there was like loads of action that kept you invested in the film. It just didn't really. I think I can see why other people would like it a lot more than me. It's just because it's not not the kind of film that I would go and watch. But I'm glad that it was chosen, because I think now if I looked for a film where we had one pick that wasn't just all humans, as Daniel said, I wouldn't go into it with such a closed mind. I feel as if it's opened my mind and broadened my horizons a wee bit, I guess, in terms of seeing a film like that now. If I was going to cinema, that I wouldn't be thinking, oh, no, for me. I would probably go and maybe would still enjoy it. I'll pass it over to.
I'm going to jump in here. It's funny because when Burnsy watches a film, it's typically needs to have a love triangle, a pregnancy, and have Vera Farmiga in it before he gets any kind of interest. So hearing him speaking quite highly of something is unique. For me, I watched this film basically over the space of 2 days, because I watched it for about half an hour and I turned it off. I'm knowing the mindset to watch this at that point, and I knew I wanted to give it a bit of focus, because very similar to Burnsy said there, that I didn't really know what was going on. But for me, when I was watching it, I tried to think of the aliens as not being aliens. Just think of them as another race, right? And for me, this film became a film that was highlighting how prejudice works and how oppression works and racism, and this is essentially a race of aliens, people that have just been segmented, stuck there and abused basically, and taken advantage of. They live in a slum-like environment with no rhyme or reason to it. I mean, bear in mind they were there 20 years when you watch the film, which is a long time for them to be in the same places. And the one thing that was exciting for these aliens was moving to live in a tent. Like, that's what they wanted. They were going to move and live in this new area, when in actual fact it was shit and it was worse than what they were getting into before. The second half of this film was 10 times better than the first half. I think the documentary style of the first half one was really hard to get my head around and to start appreciating what it was. There's loads of ridiculous parts in this, because is it Wikas? Is that how you pronounce his name?
I think so.
Wikas. He goes from being like a complete weirdo, geeky, really individual guy to being this badass later on who can fight and shoot and all this kind of stuff, where it takes, like, it becomes a bit more unlikable the more it goes on. And the acting as well, because you don't know who these people are, because we're typically used to certain actors that you see, you start to look for, like, do I know him for anything? So I spent more time Googling who Wikas was and what other films he'd been in. I didn't realise he was in things like The A-Team, for instance.
He's in loads of stuff. He's in Maleficent as well. He's in Elysium. He's fucking badass in Elysium, like.
That's it. Hunter's trivia is all fucked now. Need trivia for Hunter now.
Out the door.
But when I was watching it, I recognised him, so I was like, I was spending time looking up on him. I found it hilarious, the fact that an alien was called Christopher. I wanted to know, like, I know when we do reviews, I always talk about I want more information. I want to know why. I want to know why everything. But I wanted to know I wanted to know how they understood what their language was, and like, how did they learn that? And it was just clicks and noises. Like, how did he have fluent conversations? That bit confused.
I think, like you said, because they've been there for 20 years, Like, if we all moved to Paris tomorrow, we would all learn French after a while. So I think they would have interacted with each other and learned the language pretty early in the whole, what would you call it, refugee situation they were in.
Anyone just looked at me first out laughing.
Daniel, you just joined us from another station.
Yeah,
for the
because
looks
I'm
of
a
it.
new guy.
That's no me.
Guy responded.
What's going on?
That was just, I think Ella joined us on a special edition there.
That was a first. That's never happened before.
What happened there?
No, no. Just disappointed she wasn't in the bath.
Just some
We will swiftly move on from there. But Dave,
The call there. Is that what happened?
Oh, she just basically took over your screen. Is she on a bus?
I don't know. That's funny.
what we'll do, she's gone now, but what we'll do is we'll bring Dave in. Dave, you start to give us your thoughts on District 9. Was this the first time you had seen District 9?
Was I? So I think you're right in what you're saying, that the undertones of it, especially it being South Africa and the kind of past that they had between the white and the black population and apartheid and all that kind of stuff, there was subliminal messages on the back of that, with the camps. So I did get that, but to be honest, as a movie, I really didn't like it at all. I first started watching it on Saturday, and a bit like you, I just felt I wasn't concentrating on it very much. So I came back to it after work tonight and watched it kind of fully, gave it a bit more concentration. But to be honest, I still kind of found myself drifting out. To be honest, it might be quite a trivial thing, but it basically lost me the minute they called the aliens prawns. That's
one of my
known as that. Just straight away, that was like a no-no for me. To be honest, pretty much up until Christopher, I think Bunzy mentioned it in the shack, I just was like waiting for it to end, and it did pick up. I felt a wee bit sorry for Christopher when he got hit and stuff like that when he was trying to get to his son. So I suppose I got a wee bit involved with the character at that point. I think the special effects when him and Christopher were breaking into that facility, and the gun that they used with I don't know what you would call it, the kind of lightning bolt type things, I thought that was quite well done. I think the visual of the spaceship in the sky was really cool. But just as an overall movie, I was pretty bored. I wasn't invested in any of the characters really, apart from maybe Christopher. The accents were an issue for me. I don't know if it was specific dialect or if that guy is actually South African.
Yeah,
because my nephew's half South African, so I spoke to his dad, and his accent it was totally different for this one. I found the accents quite irritating, which isn't going to help when it's that way throughout the full film. So I couldn't believe it when I'd done a wee bit of research on it, that it grossed over 200 million at the box office for a 30 million budget. So it's popular. It's done really well, but it's never a film I would ever watch again.
It's very, very unique. Just for Fearsome Luck 123. Yep, we're having a good day and a great stream. It is our 1 year anniversary. Thank you for being here. Feel free to drop us a follow if you are listening. No, Dave, I get what you're saying on there, because it's a weird. It's really weird to explain it, because it is a hard watch, because it's two different films to me. It's that whole documentary side at the start, where you're starting to understand what the undertone is and what they're going for, and then you've got the action-packed finale to the film, where it goes 0 to 60 really, really quick. So it does jump forward a lot. Hunter, what would be your thoughts on it, buddy? And I feel like we've been stealing all your trivia as well. So if you have got
it's actually been flung out the window of my trivia. But one thing I did notice as well that nobody's picked up on, it was actually 28 years that the spaceship was in the sky. When you're going through the sort of opening credits, it's 1982 is the date that's on the home video footage of the ship first coming
and I think the date towards the film ending was actually September 2010, which would have meant that the prawns would have been still less annoying than Vuvuzelas during the World Cup that year had they been there.
Did you write that one
I
down?
know you touched on it, but being a documentary style, it was the first docu-style film which was actually nominated for a Best Picture Oscar, which I found sort of quite fascinating
Best
on that.
Picture?
Also, there were 5 alternate endings originally shot, but apparently one was that bad that no one will ever see the night or day of it. The death count, which I found quite surprising, was only 21 MNU staff, 3 aliens, and is it 5? I can't even read my handwriting, but it's quite low anyway. I can't remember honestly, my handwriting is atrocious.
It seemed a lot higher, Hunter, because like when he goes back to get the stuff that he's been infected with.
I know, that's what I
thought
thought.
was even more
a big chunk of the building.
Aye.
But the bit as well, which I thought was at the sea when he, the bit of cake that he cuts before he spews up all over the cake, is the same bit of the building that they blow up to gain access to go in at that point. I thought that was quite a lot.
Oh, I love stuff like that, like little nods, little nod to what's going to happen.
Right, on my thoughts on the film.
You still with us? I think we might have just lost Hunter as his thoughts were coming in there. You still with us?
I'm here, right?
There we go. We lost you for a second there, Hunter. You
just
said as your thoughts.
I enjoyed the first part of it. In fact, quite the majority of it. I just kind of felt it kind of got a bit too over the top sci-fi alien robot stuff towards the end. It just kind of got a bit too mental for me. There was a couple of comedic moments sort of in that as well, like the bit where he comes in for his surprise party. He's like his wife, well, I think I've shit my pants, and they like turn the light on, and like the full family standing there. Brilliant. I thought that was quite funny, but I liked it again. I know you're touching on it anyway, but with the whole sort of racial undertones, with the whole kind of how people, refugees, whatever, are still now to this day, we've kind of seen it in a lot more recent times that they're still viewed that way by sort of civilians of the country that they're seeking refuge in, and it's still ongoing, so it's still going to be a problem for years to come, and I think it's very well sort of done in that sort of way. But again, for me, it's just, I did enjoy a lot of it, but with, as I said, just towards the end, it just kind of got a bit over the top for me, and it kind of downscored a bit for me at that point.
Yeah, so just to touch back on something you mentioned earlier about it being nominated for Best Picture, I was having a quick look there to see what else was nominated that year, because the winner for that year was a film that I really didn't like, The Hurt Locker.
It's shite, I don't like it either.
Nominated alongside some shite films like Inglourious Bastards, a lot of crap. A film reviewed very highly in here, Up. I think Sarah's just got over us slandering Up, so let's not pick at that one. James Cameron's Avatar.
Garbage.
Yeah, it's a great year. It's a serious man, an education, precious, up in the air, and the only good film that I can see from this list that I quite enjoyed was The Blind Side. It was also nominated for this year.
Precious is good. Well,
I've never seen Precious, so I can't comment on Precious.
That big fat young lassie, it's good.
That young lassie, yeah, we'll exclude that first part there.
No, but that's part of the film. I'm no slagging her for being fat. Part of the story is she's a big fat lassie and it's her dealing with that.
I see. Cool. Sean, you say this seems right up your street when it comes to films. You are a man known for positivity. Just before we jump into letting Sean speak, we had a little look through some previous communication in the movie chat when we started this over a year ago. And correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the comments on there, I think it was myself that put in there saying that Sean won't enjoy any of these.
I think it was Sean won't enjoy something like this, or like even just we didn't think he would even like the idea of it. But
so we are
now.
90 films on, and we're still to find one that he actually has something nice to say about. So let's hope that District 9 can be that number one. Sean, we're all waiting for you. You are the star. Take it away.
When it first started, I wasn't too because I didn't read anything up about it at all. So I wasn't sure if it was like a comedy or something, because the main character, I'm terrible with names, but he was he came across quite comedic, like he was a bit like just a bumbling idiot. And it also felt at times like you were watching like an episode of The Office, like the way that they'd done like the Office shots and stuff like that. But once I got over that, I actually really enjoyed it. I liked how the aliens were like the good guys in this, because at the start you kind of got the impression that they were obviously bad. 9 times out of 10 these kind of films with aliens in it, the aliens are the bad guys and they're causing absolute havoc and stuff, but really kind of painted us humans to be just absolute scum of the earth, like trapping all these basically obviously aliens and just treating them like shit. But nah, I really liked it. I don't really agree on much of it. Not that I don't agree, but I think the opposite. It never really got kind of to a point where I thought this was really daft. Even when the boy donned the Iron Man suit and he turned into Iron Man, I didn't really think that was too over the top. It's a film about aliens, so it's over the top enough anyway. With it, that's never really took much away from me. I also liked how it ended, where he left. I wasn't sure what it was. It looked like a wee metal flower, whatever it was that his wife had showed at the camera at the end. Because obviously they'd said that we don't know, like that was the last sighting of. Sorry, I can't mind his name.
Vickers.
Aye, and then it's cut to the fully transformed into a prawn, and he's sitting there with a wee metal flower thing. I just found that like really nice. It was just there to see that he's obviously fully transitioned into a prawn, which is quite weird to see.
He's gone full prawn.
Aye. No, but I was.
Can't we become a romantic, basically, scene or something?
Aye. No,
I just. That for Burnsy.
Yeah, like
After the last thing you're going to say the most stupid thing you've seen in the film in your life.
Genuinely, on paper, this is a film that I would absolutely hate, but it really did take me by surprise. And as you've already kind of said, like the alien Christopher, like they've done that on purpose to humanise him with an actual human name. I really felt sorry for him, and like throughout the film, I thought he was really good in it. Again, he's just CGI and stuff, but I don't know. I just really liked that character. As much as you can like an alien character that doesn't speak English, I really liked him. But no, I was really surprised. I thought I would absolutely hate it, but I really enjoyed it, and I would definitely watch it again.
Awesome, man.
And I love when that happens, when it's a film that you didn't really expect to like and you end up liking it.
To be honest, I'm taken aback by that, Sean. That's far too much positivity for you, so can we tone that down, please, a little bit in the next film?
Oh, yeah, sure we fucking will, to be honest.
Daniel.
Just me left. So I purposely wanted to go last because the reason I picked this film is that it gives completely different reactions. Anyone I've ever spoke to that's watched this film, they all seem to have completely different views on it, and that was kind of the same as you guys. I'm pretty much in Sean's camp here. Like, the first time I watched this, it was because I saw that it was nominated for Best Picture, and I was like, I'd never heard about this South African independent film. I thought, right, I'll give it a go. And I was totally intrigued by the whole documentary aspect. And then see, once I figured out what they were doing quite early on, when you saw that they were actually trapped inside the spaceship, and it looked like they just had been left there, and then you turns out refugees, and it's, like Dave mentioned, it's like apartheid is what they're trying to represent. So the aliens are the black people during apartheid and how they've been moved into slums and everything like that and treated like shite. But then at the same time, I just thought it was good fun as well. Like John mentioned, he comes out in an Iron Man suit and he can use all the alien technology. And I thought that was a really good way, because it was mentioned earlier on, I think, by Burnsy, that he was a bit of he wasn't really a badass or anything like that. He was a bit of a loser. I thought Sean was going to say David Brent early on, because he reminded me of David Brent a wee bit.
It wasn't that extreme for me. He was like an extra in the office. I would have put it down to like one of the background team. David Brent is like a right out there character. It wasn't to that point. It just felt like I was watching an episode of like the South African Office at times.
I like that. I like it added a sort of element of. I think they did loads of good things here to stop it feeling stupid because you've got loads of aliens living in a city and interacting, and that could come across quite slapstick. But I think having the documentary aspect and then the seriousness of it changing, because it was a bit silly with the documentary, then it slowly got more and more serious as the movie got on. I think it does a great job with Vickers because he's a bad bastard from the start to me. It's one of those things where the villain slowly learns that he learns to be a better person by becoming an alien. He learns to be a better human being by becoming an alien in the end. Because all the way through it, he doesn't give a fuck about Christopher. Everything he's doing for Christopher's for himself. Like, he's the most selfish bastard in the world in this film, and all he cares about is getting himself back to normal. And I guarantee that if he had got himself back to normal, he would have went back to being the same dick he was and still, like, evicting the aliens, and I don't think he would have learned a lesson. But by the end, he's had to then become what he was obsessing. So it's almost like if you watched a war movie and someone's like a guard in a prisoner of war camp and they're a horrible bastard, but then they end up in the prison. That sort of idea. But no, I love this. It's one of those, I've watched it more than once. I could watch it again. I think it's just really well done. I think the acting's great. I think the guy that plays the lead character is brilliant in everything I've seen him in as well. He's a bad guy in Maleficent, bad guy in Elysium. I just think he's cool as fuck.
So Daniel, we have watched war films. I don't know if you remember, we watched Zulu Dawn before, and we absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. It's up there beside Glory.
Zulu Dawn's better than this, anyhow. That's for sure.
If you're a blind man.
Listen, we better not slag off Zulu Dawn. That was the original reason for Dave to jump ship.
It was actually Sean's constant goading of me, you know.
Well,
I'm a believer.
Dave, as someone who's witnessed Sean bully and goad you throughout the years, I totally understand where you're coming from. He is the star of this show. He does overrule us all the time. We deal with it on a weekly basis, mate. So we understand. We support you. So I think that is us for District 9. Hunter, do you have any more trivia that we've not already stolen from you that you'd like to share?
Yes, the actual sum that was used for the film was an actual real sum, and running as a parallel story to the film being made, the residents of that were being moved out slowly into better housing shortly before filming actually commenced on this. So I thought that was quite I know we kind of talked about it with the sort of advertising the racial oppression that South Africa used to face, but that was actually still happening as this film was being made.
Exactly.
So folk generally getting kicked out of their houses whilst they're making a film about people getting kicked out of their houses.
Pretty much, aye. And the alien language, the clicking, was actually made by rubbing a pumpkin, as we keep the Halloween theme going for another week.
Okay, we'll move on for that.
Yeah. Thank you for missing my sense of wasn't.
Wow. Any other trivia there, Hunter?
No, before I take it any darker, I'll leave it at that.
That's it. Well, Daniel, let's get in and let us know the thoughts on Instagram when it comes to District 9, because I was still shocked at this one, so I want to know how Instagram reacted to it.
Yeah. I was surprised that it won as well, to be honest, because it beat a lot of, well, every round I thought it would go out. I didn't think it would get past the first round, so I was glad it did. Instagram scores were wide ranging, as you'd expect, as high as a 5 and low as a 1 from some people. And I think because this film is so unique, it's a bit like a Marmite movie. It's understandable that you would hate it, but I think it's understandable that you'd love it. I don't think it's one of those that you could. I could never say to someone, no, you must fucking like this, because I don't think it's one of those. You either like or you don't. So ended up with a 3.75 overall, more positive than negative.
A 3.75. And just before we move on to individual scores, just an update for Dave on the scoring system. So we do still score it out of 5, but we do go in increments of 0.25. Just to factor that in. Daniel, we'll come straight back to you though with your score. This was your movie choice for the week.
I'm going to give it a 4.25. I'm a big fan of this movie.
A 4.25. I'm going to jump in with a 2.75 for me. Like I say, half and half for this movie for me. Fairest way to score it. Burnsy?
I'm quite similar to you as we discussed, so I'm going to give it a 2.5.
Quite similar to me, we just know the same. Had to go one lesson there. Hunter?
I'm going to go slightly higher. Again, the bits I really enjoyed them, and I know you touched on it, Sean, that it was a film about aliens and giant phones living in a civilized city, but it's just for me, when things get a bit too sci-fi, I kind of lose interest, but as I said, I did enjoy very much a lot of the film, so it's a 3.5 for me.
A 3.5?
Sorry, 3 out of 5 for me, sorry. 3 out of 5.
Oh,
You go with first scores, I'm afraid.
a mid change. Dave, what about yourself?
It'll be fairly low from me, I'm afraid.
That's right.
Also, like, one of the reasons being is I think the idea, I always like judge a film on if I think the idea's good, but it could be implemented much better. That's always a big no-no for me as well, because it is quite unique, like Daniel says. I don't know if there's any been films after that or films I've just not seen that are even similar, but I think the idea is a good one, but it could just maybe be done better with maybe a better producer. It's a 1.75 for me.
1.75, and Sean, finish us off.
I'm going to give it a 4. As I said, there's not much else to say. I've already said what I said, but a 4 out of 5, I did enjoy it.
A 4 out of 5. So just while Burnsy does the maths on that, let's get the leaderboard up on the screen so that everyone can see where we are at with our movies. So we still have the same top 10. Goodfellas, Parasite, 7. Shawshank Redemption, Wolf of Wall Street, Trainspotting, Terminator 2, Fight Club, Jaws, and Burnsy's favourite No Country for Old Men make up our top 10. Burnsy, is this movie in any danger of getting into the top 10?
Unfortunately not. I'm desperate to get New Country for Old Men out of it, but no yet. 3.04 this one is overall.
Is this a better movie than No Country for Old Men?
Definitely.
So just looking on the leaderboard at the moment, a 3.04 will then move this movie just above Heat at number 40 and just below Pirates of the Caribbean and Room, which are two films that are much better than this one. So 3.04 and number 40. So that brings us to the end of District 9. But before we move on to the next movie, just a quick plug on the socials and the podcasts. The social information is still down below. We have our YouTube channel, we have our Instagram, our Twitter, and our Twitch. But obviously, you're already here. We are also available on podcast now. We are finally on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts, and if you want to be the very, very first person to listen to us on Amazon Music, be our guests. If you search us for The Morons Reviewing Movies Podcast, you'll find us on Amazon, or Amazon, Apple, or Spotify. That is your three best ones to look at. Thank you to the 143 people varying across countries such as America, Bangladesh, and Spain that have taken the time to download and listen to our podcast. 143 people in a month is much more than what I expected. I was quite chuffed for that when I seen that. So guys, Django Unchained is the next movie. Movie number 2. With the help of a German bounty hunter, a freed slave sets out to rescue his wife from a brutal plantation owner in Mississippi. Daniel, again, you are the person that chose this movie to be on the list. I think we're going to come to you first this time rather than last.
Yeah. I'll go first this time, so I think I know a bit more about what people will think about this. I was quite... I know this is a popular film, but we put it up against The Green Mile, and I thought it would lose, and then it won the final by a landslide. So I wasn't expected to watch it. I knew Sean would be pissed off because it's another Tarantino movie, so this must be about the 6th or 7th one we've done. But I first saw this at the cinema when it came out, so a long time ago, and when I first saw it, it fucking blew me away. And I think we spoke about this previously. You do get a different feel if you watch something in the cinema versus watching it at home. And I think this is one of those that does have a big sort of cinema feel with the soundtrack and there's loads going on. But yeah, I have a second watch. It's maybe not got the same impact as it had the first time I watched it because you know what's coming. But I was trying to keep that sort of fresh state of mind with it. But I do still really enjoy this film. I think we've spoke about him before, but Christoph Waltz is fucking amazing. Like, he's just got this like natural charisma that comes across on screen. It almost seems like he's not putting any effort into acting, or everything just comes across really naturally. So I think he's amazing. He's amazing all the way through this. We've got two contrasting actors in this. We've got Sean's favourite, Leo DiCaprio, who he fucking loves, and we've got Kyle, who fucking hates Jamie Foxx. So I'm interested to see what you two think of those. But I think DiCaprio was unbelievable in this. He plays that part to perfection. Like, he's so unlikable. He's like a horrible bastard. And obviously, if you're the type of guy that's going to own slaves, you need to be horrible in every aspect of your personality. And there's nothing likable about him in this, at any of his interactions. And I think he's amazing. But yeah, there's a few moments in this that stick to me all the time. And because some of it's quite difficult to watch, but Tarantino manages to do this in a way that, so like, if you've ever seen maybe 12 Years a Slave or movies like that, and it's dealing with the same subject matter, they're really difficult to get through. And although you want to get those emotional moments where you understand what black people had to go through at the time, but sometimes in other movies it's laid on too much. Whereas I think this does a great job of giving you wee bits of action, wee bits of comedy, and little bits of light-hearted scenes throughout it, even though it's essentially a movie about slavery. Like one of the moments, like the KKK scene. I just see the KKK being funny, but it's fucking hilarious for them shouting about the holes in the eyes and all that. And I think only Tarantino would dedicate like 5 minutes to a scene like that, because it's just nothing's happening. It's just them arguing over some masks for quite a lot of screen time, and I think stuff like that's amazing. But then the opposite end of the scale, when you first meet DiCaprio's character, you've got the two guys fighting to the death. Obviously, that was the whole point, that he trades them, and like old school UFC, except you're using slaves to do it. That was hard to watch, man. Like, seeing two guys that don't even want to be fighting with each other, but they're forced into it like animals, and he's got to kill him, and then no, he doesn't want to kill him. Then he just gets a wee beer and a woman, and he's happy. You know what I mean? Similarly, the guy getting ripped apart by the dogs. I think the way they had Jamie Foxx, the way Jamie Foxx plays it, I think is amazing. And like Kyle says, I'm not his biggest fan, but he came across as so believable to me, because like, see all the scenes where he's helping to blend in and sort of play this character that obviously deep down he was a slave, and he's going to hate seeing that guy getting ripped apart by the dogs, but he can't come out of the character. He's got to think about his end goal of getting his wife back. So he's got to become a horrible dick to these guys as well. And I think the inner conflict with him was brilliant as well. I feel like I didn't quite have the same impact as the first time I watched it, but I still very much enjoyed the full movie. It's long, but it doesn't feel long. I think it's got sort of distinct chapters to it, like most sort of Tarantino movies do. Overall, I like it. It's good fun.
I think you've my notes that I've got written down is that I think that this movie was in 3 parts, so 3 chapters. You've just stolen that, and I've wrote down a mix of action and comedy, and you've stolen that. So I pretty much got fuck all to say. Cheers, Daniel. So obviously, I slander Jamie Foxx every time we get the opportunity to slander Jamie Foxx, because he's shite in 99% of films that he's in, but this is the 1%. This is the movie that he is really good at the character that he's playing. He's a believable badass. You know that when he's got a gun that he's going to be good, he can use it, he knows what he's doing, he's strong, he loves his wife, and you can tell that in the film, that he's actually got an emotion to her, and is all for her. And I actually found myself quite enjoying having him on the screen, which has never ever happened for Jamie Foxx. Between this movie and having him in a Kanye West Gold Digger song, this is the only 2 times that he actually does anything as of now. I mean, I'll just be repeating myself with Christopher Waltz on there. There's no point adding much more into him. He is literally a genius, and he makes Tarantino films good. This is probably one of my favourite ones though when it comes to a Tarantino movie, and I'm very vocal in my disdain for Tarantino films. There is a lot of stuff that is a bit long in it. I get what you're saying about the KKK scene, where it goes on for ages, but it just adds comedy and comedy. And I actually stopped thinking about it when I seen Jonah Hill in it, because I'm like, oh fuck, that's Jonah Hill. Like that was interesting to me, and that kind of took me away from what was going on in the screen at that point. But it's one of those things you're like, I wonder if, like, it is obviously a piss take of what the KKK was at that time, and it makes you think, like, I wonder if that was a real problem for them.
So I think the idea is that the KKK didn't exist yet. This was like the first iteration of it. So this was like the first time anyone had ever tried it. So you had the obviously master of the masks and all that shit. But it's funny. One bit I do want to mention a bit, but I stopped because it'll be in Hunter's trivia. But the dinners, the scene having dinner and doing the negotiations and all that, and then DiCaprio finds out, and the scene where he slams his hand on the table. Is that in your trivia, Hunter?
Yeah,
No, I'm going to go ahead then. So the scene where DiCaprio slams his hand on the table and he's fucking fuming and he knows everything's going on, like they're all busted and all that, right? And he's going fucking mental. And the performance at that point's amazing. And then he's got all the blood all over his hand. And he smears the blood all over their face and all that, right? That was all an accident. He smashed a glass by mistake, so he was meant to just slam his hand on the table. But he
yeah.
I
just like
as well. Wonder what was going on.
So he had lived everything, like, see the bit with the blood on her face and all that. He just came up with that on the spot, which I think's fucking amazing.
Then you'll set Sean off and his Leonardo DiCaprio excitement. I'm shocked you're even here and they're still kicking about Mary Hill looking for him.
Daniel, that was the foundation upon which my trivia was built.
After you said no, sorry, man.
See what happens.
So you go ahead, I was meaning.
see what happens when I delegate jobs, eh? No, I mean, that scene is awesome. I mean, you watch that and you watch Leonardo DiCaprio going, you see the reaction of, for instance, his insurance guy or whatever he is there, his accountant. The reaction was that was supposed to happen. I knew that happened in the film, so when that scene was coming out, I was looking for the details in there and watching the reaction that other people in the scene sets off, knowing that this wasn't supposed to happen. I don't know. I really, really like it. What I wanted to talk about though was I want to talk about Samuel L. Jackson, right? And I want to say the best way to describe him is he plays the perfect whitest black man ever.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
They build up to that because they talk about the worst person to be hated was the head person for the slaves and the black people on the screen. He was the worst and the most hated person from them all. And then Samuel Jackson's character come in and you hate him for the minute it starts. But what I thought was really cool about him is when it comes to that end battling scene with him and Jamie Foxx, and he just drops his cane, he drops his act. It was all an act that he's been running for years and decades as part of that. And then what I liked about that scene is he just kneecaps him and kills him. Like, I'm no fucking about you. Get yourself out. You're gone. Let's bring Dave in for his thoughts.
So, a good movie. It's a good movie. I think it's the third time I've watched it. And kind of similar to Daniel, it definitely didn't have the impact on me when the first time I seen it. If this was the first time I was reviewing it, I think my opinion would be different, probably higher. But it is a good movie. Definitely the first act is my favourite part of it, compared to the second and third part of it, which might seem strange because a lot of the action happens towards the end. But similar, I mean, I'm just going to say it because I think he has amazing Christoph Waltz. In a sense, I found myself similar night with Heath Ledger. I was waiting for his parts in it because I liked him that much. I looks at but he's just that good on camera. Like Daniel said, just so natural. I actually done a wee search on him after it, and he's not actually been in that many movies that I've seen, but the ones that I have seen him in, he's just tremendous. This is where it might get slightly controversial. Is I've got a bit of a different opinion on Leo's performance in this.
Ooh, talk to us.
So, by no means bad, but for me, for a lot of his other movies, it felt to me like it was Leonardo DiCaprio playing a character rather than, like, Wolf of Wall Street, it was Jordan Belfort. Catch Me If You Can, it was Frank Abernethy. This felt to me like it was Leonardo DiCaprio playing this guy, like it was a like stage character. The bit with the dimples, that was like brilliant, but that was my favourite part of his performance, and it just never really. I just couldn't really see past that, because I've seen him obviously in loads of stuff, and I've always got drawn in by his character. But see, that's the best way I could explain it. It just felt like it was Leo playing Candy, which obviously it is, but I don't know if that's makes sense. But
no, it makes sense because you want the actor to be the character rather than the character being the actor.
Yeah, aye, defo. And then it's a lot of it's just typical Tarantino into it, like the action scenes. And I'm sure will not be too pleased with that because he doesn't like his gore, but typical Tarantino with the shots and the blood and stuff. But not too much to add. Good movie, not as good as what I thought it was the first time I seen it. Probably not my top Tarantino movie. Well, it's not my top Tarantino movie.
Did anybody notice any feet in this movie?
I didn't.
Really? The only thing I can remember is Jamie Foxx's smashing Big Bobby.
Oh well, he should have got it fucking cut off and put in the mantelpiece.
I actually thought at that moment that was a good moment as well. I thought they were going to cut his dick off. Like I genuinely was drawn in the first time. Like, oh my god, they're going to cut his dick off and have it in their hand. That's what I thought the next scene was going to be.
Just to jump in a little side bit here. So Walton Goggins plays the guy that was going to cut his bobby off, right? But he also plays the transvestic or transsexual in Sons of Anarchy, and I can't picture him now without seeing him as that lady from Sons of Anarchy.
I was wondering, where have I seen him before?
He's played like a sort of redneck sort of scumbag in quite a few things. I'm sure there's a horror movie. It's like Last House on the Left, I think, or something like that. He's like the horrible bastard in it as well.
But honestly, in Sons of Anarchy, he plays an amazing character, but you know it's a man, and he's got big, massive boobs and all this kind of stuff, and it's very sexual, very innuendo. So when I see him in this as being like the redneck badass and stuff, I'm like, oh, this is weird. But he's such a good actor. Like, he's in Ant-Man, he's in Predator and stuff. There's some really good films that he's in. I'll have a look to see what the horror movie that he was in is there. But I just want to jump in because it totally threw me when I seen him, and that scene was going on. And obviously I'm not intentionally trying to concentrate on a smashing Big Bobby, but I was like, is he going to cut this Willie off? Oh, that's the guy for Sons of Anarchy. And that totally threw me for six there. Sean.
Smashing Big Bobby, the name of the podcast now, actually.
I was just going to say that, actually.
Do you know
Let's
what?
keep the Phallus team going for our podcast titles.
Smashing Big Bobby can be the name of the podcast. Last week was Glow in the Dark Dildos. So let's go for Smashing Big Bobby so far. Sean.
Right, so before Sean comes in, I just want to ask, and Daniel's probably going to be the best person to answer this, but I don't know if I feel like I've completely missed it, but has it ever actually explained why Schultz and how Schultz knows about Hilde, and that A, she speaks German, and that B, Jamie Foxx is wanting her? Does that ever get explained as to actually, is that just...
Aye, there's a whole scene where Jamie Foxx says that he's got a wife and she's got a German name, and then Christoph Waltz tells him the fairy tale about the German princess with the same name, and then he tells him that she speaks German and blah blah blah, and that's where they decide to stay together and be like a duo.
And then they search for her in some kind of... They're in like a cafe or something, and then they're going through all this book to try and find her with all the people that are owned by... are slaves, basically. And then they come across and realise she's at Candyland, I'm sure, too.
And he quotes a line from the fairy tale to her so that she knows there's a bit of, like, safety with him.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay, when he goes into the hotel room there.
So just before that, he quotes a line from the movie, and then you see her body language and her face changes slightly to be like, right, okay.
And I went over my head, that bit.
It's because she wasn't pregnant and having a threesome with two other guys, so...
Well, look like that might happen at one point.
She passed out before anything could happen.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Right, let's bring Sean in before this gets into a darker conversation.
I'm not so sure about this film. It's got really, really good scenes. It's got good moments. I'm just going to go over what's been said already, but Christoph Waltz, and I love DiCaprio in this, and I like Jamie Foxx in it as well. But it's just a typical Tarantino film for me. It's got really, really, like, visually it looks really good. The acting's good. There's some good scenes. Like the opening scene was brilliant. It reminded me of the opening scene in Inglourious Bastards as well. Just Christoph Waltz just totally stole it. But then it just, like, every Tarantino film just goes totally just miles and miles and miles out of just reality, and I really struggle to watch it. It's far too long. It doesn't need to be 2 hours and 50 minutes or whatever it is, 2 hours 45 minutes. It's just a lot of it is kind of stretched out nonsense. I'm a bit torn with it because there is bits that I enjoyed. Like, I love the scene where they go to the bar and then the sheriff comes out and then he shoots the sheriff in the street and then the marshal comes out. Like, I love that. He's just so calm in that situation. He's played it brilliantly. But I carry no look at, like, the final 45 minutes of this film, and I just totally, like, for when Candy wanted to shake hands with Christoph Waltz, and then obviously he shoots him, and then Christoph Waltz gets shot. For there, it just totally went just total stupid, really, really daft. I don't know if he's noticed, but at one scene, Jamie Foxx, I think it might have been the last scene where he goes back to the house to get what's his name? Can't remember his name.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Aye. When he goes back to get them, and then he says to the two slave lasses to say bye. Can't remember the lass's name that was standing in the doorway, and he shoots her with a pistol, and she totally, like, it's as if like a paranormal thing had just dragged her out the room, and she just blew right back about 40 mile an hour. It's just so over the top, and I just can't. I don't know if it's because we've watched so much in Tarantino films recently that I just totally lose interest with it. There's far too much blood in this. It's just that, like, for every scene with blood in it, or for every moment with blood in it, they must have used like a pint of ketchup or something. It's just totally over the top, and I just lose interest with it. I'm totally beyond it.
Just to jump in on the blood side of it, as much as it was ridiculous, how fucking funny was it they kept shooting that same guy that was lying down, get his legs just blown off at either side as they were going.
That was funny.
That was
like, again, that's like a wee kind of humorous bit and all that, but like, again, I just totally lose interest with it now. I'm sick to the back teeth of Tarantino films. Like, we just seem to have done like about 6 in the past like 10 weeks.
I was going to say, to give Dave a bit of an insight, we've had a bit of a Tarantino fest going on for the last 10 weeks, where it's been him every week or every other week. So
it just seems to be never ending, and I'm thankful that there was the only feat that I seen in this was when he cut the chains off of Jamie Foxx at the start. You seen his feet there, and I'm glad that there was no other feet apart from that. But again, and it just shows the ego of Tarantino again. He had to put himself on the film, and I brought this up with Pulp Fiction, and I was told with Daniel that it was due to budget, because obviously I don't think there was a particularly big budget for that. What's the excuse for this one? Why was he in the film at the end? They had a massive budget for this. He's a total egomaniac, and as I said, in 10, 15 years from now, his name will be up there with Epstein's and Harvey, what's his name?
Weinstein.
Aye, Weinstein. His name will be up there. He's an absolute egomaniac, and he's a vile guy. I cannot stand him. And again, when I seen his face, I can't actually remember it because I've only seen this once before. But it just really just made me want to turn it off. There's no need for him to be in this at all. Again, everything's about him. I can't stick him. So,
Just to curiosity, right? Do you feel that way about other directors in movies that they're in? Or is it just Tarantino?
Him.
Like what about, is Clint Eastwood an egomaniac for making Gran Torino and $1 Million Baby?
If you put them,
agenda.
No, he's
Not
an
an agenda.
actor.
That's the bottom line.
There's no agenda here. He's an actor.
Did Weinstein not produce this film?
Yes.
He produces all these films.
The best
Well, no,
part.
they may not produce the next one, rather.
And also, again, we're going on a bit of a tangent here, but Tarantino was defending Weinstein as well, I'm pretty sure. He's I'm sick to the
I
back.
think we should stick to movie chat before we go down the rabbit hole of Weinstein.
You brought it up.
I only asked if we reduced it. I've not went on the abuse.
Aye, so just to go back, there is moments, there's a lot more moments in a Tarantino film in this that I like compared to his other ones that kind of save it a bit, but as I said, the last 45 minutes were just totally ridiculous and way over the top, and I just totally lost interest in it.
On that, like, I thought that the worst bit of the whole film for me personally was when he got released, when he was hanging upside down, he got released, and then he ended up with those 3 Australian guys, and he killed them, and then that's how, and then he went back to the Candy's house. That to me just felt as if they couldn't have come up with anything else. That just felt like
that's what I'm saying. That was Tarantino. It's just an excuse to get him in the film. He was one of the Australian guys. It's just an excuse to give him for him to have a part.
Well, it was because I felt that was so out of place. It was lazy. It was a lazy way for them to get him back to Candy's house. I didn't like that part at all. No, because of Tarantino, because I've not got an agenda like yourself. But,
there's no agenda. It's not as if he's rejected me. I've no.
In the spirit of
to be in a film or something.
In the spirit of the film, like, he's killed those 3 in cold blood. He's made an agreement with them, killed them in cold blood. As much as it's wrong what they're doing, but in terms of that time period at that point, it's no different to what anyone else is doing. And then he's went back to the house for his revenge or his vengeance, whatever you want to call it.
I do agree with the guys, actually. I think, and this is something that's typical of Tarantino, I don't think he does good endings in general in all of his movies. But I don't think that necessarily makes it a bad film. Like I'm a big Stephen King fan, and he openly says like he can't do endings. He's shite at writing endings, and I think sometimes it's a bit of a difficulty. And I think that's why most of his films end up so long, because he doesn't know when to end it. I think if it was up to Tarantino, he would just keep going and adding something else and adding something else. And I think Dave makes a good point, and like Sean said at the end there, that last bit's totally unnecessary. If he's going to escape, have him escape when he's there, and he's already. You don't need him going away and coming back, and there's a bit wasted screen time, that bit. I do agree.
There you go. Could have saved 20 odd minutes here. Bonzi, you've been quiet on this one, mate. Let's bring you in.
When this one got picked again, although it was a Tarantino film, and I think I've enjoyed every one we've watched before. It's when I read a quick bit about it for shows and stuff, and I was kind of like, I'm going to hate this. Based like 150 years ago, it's like a Western film. Obviously, that was just for the wee bits I'd read, and it was the complete opposite of that. So, not until obviously it was still set 150 years ago, because that sounds stupid to have said that. But in terms of enjoyment, it was really good. The beginning, I didn't really know where it was going at the start until Waltz turned up. I was kind of just a bit like, why they got slaves, where are they going, all that kind of stuff. But once obviously he finds Django and
Who?
What?
Who
did he find?
Django.
I'm going to make you wait because you slagged me off for pronunciation, Bonzi. So what's the name of the guy?
But he met Jamie Cox.
He sounds like an area manager in a call centre, Jamie Cox.
But he met Jamie Foxx, and then what?
Jamie Cox. Jamie Big Cox.
Cox smashing Big Bobby.
Jamie Foxx, I said.
You said Jamie Cox.
Oh, no, that was a slip of the tongue then. Aye. So like the scenes at the start, like once they actually moved on, and I really enjoyed the beginning of it, where they first meet and they becoming bounty hunters, they build the rapport with the characters. Whereas this one, unlike the previous film, unlike District 9, you actually got a lot more character development throughout it. Like you felt as if you knew a bit about their background. I thought like it was a bit weird, but weird in a good way, that when it was maybe about an hour and a half in before DiCaprio was in the film, I think it was roughly about that, because I saw he was playing a part. And I was thinking, where is he actually going to come into this film? It was weird seeing him, although he turned into a main character halfway through. I expected him to be in far longer in the film, but I think it worked to the benefit of the film that way. In terms of when it went to Candyland, that's where I did really start being really on the edge of my seat for it. As Daniel had touched on, the fighting scene and the dogs mauling the black guy to death, that was disgusting. Like, it was a struggle to watch that. The bit where he first meets his wife again, I thought that was really well done as well. Like, I felt as if it was kind of quite, and you could see the emotion because it played it that well, the two characters, and Walt's in that scene too. When they go into the meal, that, for what I remember, I don't know if you'll be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed as if a lot of it was just like in one scene. I know there was bits that went through the kitchen, but it did seem as if a lot of it was just in one shot. And I felt like that was just, you were just on the edge of the seat again for that, wondering what was going to happen, if they were going to get found out, and obviously they were. When it comes to the ending, I think I'm similar to Sean. Dave obviously touched on it, that like there was loads of blood and guts, and I think I've got this. I think you're kind of misunderstanding me though. It's not the fact that I can deal blood and guts in a film, but it's when it's just like constant for like 20 minutes. It's like it feels as if when there's that many killings, that much blood, that many shots fired, it feels as if it loses its appeal in terms of like the shock factor of it. If I want somebody to be shot and killed, I want to be like, oh my god, that's happened. Not in terms of, oh, there's one shot, there's another 30 folk that have died. It loses its impact for me when you start doing that. If you want to have killings that are meant to affect you when you're watching a film, then you have like just loads and loads of people dying in one scene. But that's obviously what most of Tarantino's films are like. It was similar to Kill Bill 1, where there was just like when she goes to the, I can't remember where she ended up, but where she was just fighting with all the disciples basically. Similar to that part for me.
88.
Sorry?
She fights the crazy 88, is that what you mean?
Aye, I think so, yeah.
Mark Luke and John Paul and that.
Yeah. And then the final thing was that I thought the handbill was quite a good touch as well, because it referred back to obviously when Christopher Waltz says, remember to keep that. You might, I can't remember what exactly his words were, but something like keep that in your pocket, you never know when you might need it, or something like that, or just like keep it as a memento to remind yourself, and obviously uses that further on. But I did think the ending was a bit contrived and similar to yours, that it could have just ended in him escaping at Candyland instead of going back, and I never even clicked on that was Tarantino in the film, but it did seem as if that was unnecessary. So like overall it was really good. It was just the only part for me was just the ending, and that as usual with Tarantino films there's just far too many deaths, far too much blood, far too many gunshots.
Do you not think though it was quite funny during the scene where he's standing at the top of the stairs and the people are coming one by one through the door and they're all getting killed, but the whole thing about it was the fact that it's like, who's given this individual, and I won't repeat the phrases that they use in the movie, but who's giving him a gun, and they're more worried about the fact that this other ethnic group has got a gun compared to what's going on. He's slaughtering you all. Stop fucking running in. Sorry, Butsy 999, Reese, welcome in, mate. Thank you very much for the happy 1 year. Appreciate it. Thanks for being here. I just wanted to add something, and I don't think it'll be in Hunter's Trivia. It probably will now that I've said that. But to touch on Sean's point about the Tarantino wankfest that these films happen to be when he makes them, is he actually makes 2 cameo appearances in this movie. Did anyone spot the second part?
No.
So he plays one of the regulators, i.e. the bagheads, the one that says, I think we all think the bags were a nice idea, but we're not pointing any fingers. They could have been done better, so no bags this time. That was Tarantino as well.
There you go.
Oh no, I appreciate that.
Do you know what?
Nice.
There's some young actor or actress or whatever who's trying to make their way in Hollywood is getting put out of a joke because of this prick.
Maybe that's what Tarantino's trying to do, is trying to make his way in
Honestly,
Hollywood.
like I absolutely hate him. I hate him so much.
Hunter, it's a good time to bring you in, my friend.
Right. Again, I think I'm just going to be echoing a lot of what's been said already. Christoph Waltz and is fucking amazing in this. Like, but definitely his favourite performance of mine of him. The first sort of, it does sort of maybe drag a wee bit until Leo comes in, but even then you're getting that character development, that camaraderie, that chemistry between him and Jamie Foxx that builds up. You obviously get a strong understanding and a great relationship together with they two as they build up. And then when, I mean, I know you kind of touched on it, Bumsy, it is in my trivia, it's actually 1 hour, 3 minutes until we see Leo on screen. So you've got that full hour build up. And then when Leo comes in, and then it's just, I think the scenes where Waltz and Leo are in it together, I think are just superb. You've just got 2 actors at the top of their game, trading blows, and it's so good, in fact, not good, refreshing, sorry, to see them maybe playing opposites. Obviously, apart from things that Man and Iron Mask, this is the way of time that Leo has played the villain in a film, and Christoph Waltz, I guess, someone who's more commonly playing the villain in a film, so it was actually quite good to see them on the opposite side of the scales, and they both deliver masterclasses for me. I mean, at times for me, the overuse of the racial terms did kind of grate on me a little bit, and it is actually shock horror. The film with the most record use of that word, which is actually 116 times.
Because there's quite a lot of backlash for that, wasn't there? I think I read bits of it after, but there was a lot of complaints about how it was kind of. Sorry, I'm just going to add, it's like it was kind of quite like it made you realise how bad things were, and like kind of hit you. I found myself kind of like quite not upset, it's a bit strong, but in terms of like it really hit home in terms of how bad things actually were.
I mean,
Like,
you jump on Twitter after a football game, and it's probably just as bad on there. So,
listen, when
It's been on screen for like 2.5, 3/4 hours solid though as well.
There's no point having like it less, because back then that would have just been used as, you know, as flippantly as we would say hello. Do you know what I mean? So I think it has to be in there to actually say like how bad it was.
Like Dave mentioned in his review as well, and obviously to follow up on what you're saying, Hunter, I think you need it there, right? And I think what happens, the shock factor wears off quite quickly there, because hearing that word can be quite jarring in a film. You don't normally see it in a public space, you know what I mean? But then by the end of it, you're really used to it, and it's whether that's meant to sort of be the idea that you can become numb to it, and all these folk that are there, it's just normal to them. And I suppose it takes you to the idea of the movie, because obviously a black character in a movie now, if that word was said at them, there would be a reaction. And that's kind of what you're expecting. Normally there's a negative reaction to hearing that. But in this movie, times haven't moved on yet. So I think, like Dave said, it represents the time that wasn't a shocking word in the slightest. It was an everyday word. Jamie Foxx's character, none of the characters, they don't get offended to it.
No.
There's not been that change in society yet for us to get to that point.
It's interesting though, because not even just using the word specifically, but the actions. So like seeing an individual on a horse, or seeing an individual sitting in a pub, like that was disgusting to some people, and that was like punishable by law and death. And
even just it wasn't even the actual. Some obviously they were using words at the same time, but even like some of the obviously the way they were looking at Jamie Foxx throughout it as well, to try and obviously show you that just wasn't meant to happen.
I mean, even realistically, 100 years later, like that. They things were still thought of, and that was probably it didn't even change to 100 years post from when that film was set. But one of the bit of trivia I've got here is I thought Leo would filming one of the scenes was feeling a bit uncomfortable about using the term, and apparently Samuel L. Jackson pulled him aside and says, "Mate, this is just a Tuesday for us, eh? Stop getting your knickers in a twist."
Which is scary stuff.
But I know we've kind of talked up Jamie Foxx. He is great in the film, but the role was not originally written for him. Can you guess who was originally for that role?
Denzel.
Will Smith.
Will Smith, correct, Craig. And Will Smith's agents and management told him to accept it, but he ended up declining it, and it was offered to a few more people. Denzel was considered, but then he was then thought of to be too old, and then they eventually settled on Jamie Foxx.
Will Smith has let some fucking movies go in his time, hasn't he? The Matrix to do Wild Wild West, and then Django he's let go as well.
He's still done alright for himself.
I don't know, man. He's become a box office flop for the last decade, basically. When was the last film he did that done anything?
To be fair, I
was sure that 40 million in his bank account will
listening to Big Willie style in the car the other day. Had Will Smith's album on. The one person that's listened to him on Spotify for the last 6 months.
The podcast has got me a listen to Big Willie style.
So, Hunter, take us away with more trivia if you've got any, or even more thoughts on the movie.
And I know we've kind of touched on the length of the film as well, and it's kind of well sort of apparent that it's kind of set over 3 parts. There was originally talk of splitting this film, making it kind of longer and splitting it over 2 parts, like a Kill Bill 1 and 2, but Tarantino decided not to do that, and he has said there's been a lot of the trivia was regarded people who were in the film and cut different scenes that were cut. I mean, there's one, but apparently Jonah Hill's character was meant to have a bigger role. He was meant to play the son of a slave trader who had actually bought Jamie Foxx's wife, sort of Hilda, and was actually bought her as a lover, but that whole segment was cut away altogether. Ended up just having that role over the sort of baby KKK sort of scene. But what Tarantino has apparently said is that there will be a longer version of the film with more of these deleted scenes added back in, much to Sean's enjoyment.
Well, we can't have much more Tarantino films to go. I think we've only got things like Death Row, The Hateful Eight.
You might be asking the action into the extended one for Sean Tay, because
I know what. There's no danger I'm watching The Hateful Eight. That's one of the worst films I've ever seen.
It's Ash.
Oh, man.
I'm not even giving
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I'll even watch that. I
see that.
Well, listen, if we're going to watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, we should follow it along with Once Upon a Time in America, one of the best gangster films ever.
Nah, we can't. They're both too long. That's like 6 hours a movie.
I'll need to take a week off work to get through that.
But you watch Jackie Brown. Jackie Brown's good.
Jackie Brown's good, but I would say I'll be happy to take a Tarantino ban for the next 3 months.
Aye, come on, like we've done it to death.
Well, if your own choices, then that goes out the window.
Aye, you can pick it if you want, Bunzy, but
I'll just not speak to you.
Just to annoy Sean.
Well, guys, has everyone had their say on Django? Anyone got anything else you want to add to this?
All good.
So, before we go on to review this, I just want to point out that this is number 58 on IMDb's top 250 list. It was a winner for 2 Oscars as well. Best writing for an original screenplay by Tarantino, and a best performance by an actor in a supporting role by good old Christoph Waltz.
One final bit of trivia. Christoph Waltz was on screen for 1 hour, 16 minutes and 17 seconds. The longest amount of time anyone's ever been on screen to win the award for a supporting role.
Okay.
That's clever. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Bring your trivia on again after I've asked if you've got any trivia again. I'll cut you. So, Daniel, what did Instagram have to say about Django?
Pretty well liked, as you'd expect. Mostly 4s and 5s. I think that was a 4.09 overall.
A 4.09. And again, this was one selected by yourself. So what would you say for yourself?
For different reasons, I'm giving this a 4, so slightly lower than District 9. just because I do agree that the ending does lose its way a little bit, and I do feel like Dave said if this was the first time I'd watched it, I'd probably score closer to a 5, but it loses its impact over time. So a 4 for me.
Happy days you mentioned these names. So Dave, you come in and give us your scores next, please.
I'm giving it a respectable 3.75.
3.75, which is exactly what I wrote down for myself. So I'm going to copy on that one, Dave. 3.75 from me. Burnsy?
I'm going to give it a 4.25.
You just had to go that one little bit higher than Daniel, didn't you? Hunter?
I'm going to keep the Dunter line strong, so it's a 4 for me as well.
A 4 for you. So for you that don't know, Hunter and Daniel have got a really interesting relationship together where everything has to be the same.
We've just got good taste together. We've both got good taste.
Listen, let's discuss Fear and Loathing and then we'll talk about that. Good taste. Sean?
I'm going to give it a 2.75. Just the last 45 minutes really just put a dampener on it for me. 2.75.
2.75. So just whilst Burnsy is working out the numbers on there, I just want to plug our podcast once again. So like I said earlier, we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, as well as Podbean. We uploaded a podcast from one of our early episodes of recording, which was around the Fear and Loathing episode, and on feedback from each other, it was fucking awful. So we've deleted it, and we are going to continue the podcast moving forward each week as we go, because we do feel that the quality is much better now. So apologies if you have listened to it already. That's not the standard that we want to be putting out there, and hopefully the content that going forward is going to be much, much better.
A much more professional level is witnessed now.
Yes.
Oh, fucking, it's night and day, because
things like that.
Say that again, Dave?
You're more professional, such as like you're smashing big bobbies and you're
going to that dildos last week.
Who's
Well-
smashing big boobies? Like?
Well,
James
Hunter,
Fox smashing Big Bobby.
Oh, it's alright, okay.
Hunter was highly intoxicated for the last one that we have uploaded to Spotify, so we've taken it down, but please jump in, give us a listen and download on our latest episodes. Burnsy, I've bought you enough time to get your fingers and toes out. What was the average for that one?
That was a 3.71 overall.
A 3.71. I'm just going to pop the leaderboard back up on the screen just now. So 3.71 takes us up above. It breaks into the top 20, guys. So it's going to move down The Hunt, The Departed, and Nightmare on Elm Street. So a top 20 just below another Tarantino film, which is sitting at 19th of Pulp Fiction. So not bad. Not bad at top 20, actually. We'll take that. That's decent. So, guys, that concludes the two movies that we did watch this week, which was District 9, which came in at a 3.04, and Django Unchained, it came in at 3.71. So, we're going to now move on and show you the movies that we're going to be watching for next week. We have a slightly shorter turnaround time. We are obviously streaming here on a Wednesday when we typically do on a Monday. Our next stream, however, is going to be on the Monday coming, which is the 15th. So we've got a few days to watch this movie. So please, guys, get in and get involved with it. Don't leave it to the last minute because we've already lost 2 days. The movies are up on the screen just now. So we have got Whiplash and Joker, which I am fucking buzzing about. Two incredible movies. These are movies that have fallen at the last hurdle on previous Instagram polls over the last year. So the two winners are Whiplash and Joker. I believe Daniel's already got ahead of the game and watched one, so a lot of us have got some catching up to do. But a very, very exciting week. Dave, feel free to watch these movies as well. Have you seen either Whiplash or Joker before?
I've seen Joker before, yeah.
Have you seen Whiplash?
You went to the cinema to watch Joker.
I tell you what though, Whiplash is one of the best films I've seen in a long time. I definitely one of the words that pops up in the poster for it is exhilarating, and it's probably the best way to describe it. It's absolutely incredible.
Calm down, you save it for Monday. Jesus Christ.
I said it for Monday.
I just want to try to air it now because you've said that.
I'll fucking challenge you to that one, you prick. Okay, so let's get on and spin the wheel to see which movie is coming up, which movie choices, are coming up on our Instagram. So, it helps if I get this wheel on the screen. There we go. So, we have got some new categories on there. We have got the 5 morons on there once again. We have critics versus audiences, which will be taken from Rotten Tomatoes. We have comedy, action/thriller, critically acclaimed, pre-1970s, and an unseen by all, which would be interesting to see how that plays out if I to find films that we've all not seen. So the wheel is spinning right now. Round and round it goes, and we are going to land on... Oh, Daniel, you're going to have to do some research into this one. It is the pre-1970s.
If we can't, so I've thought about this beforehand. If we can't get enough that are 1960 something or 1950 something, we'll include the 70s. So it'll be 70s or below or before.
Sounds good. So stay tuned on the Instagram. The Instagram information is just down below on the screen as you see it. But that brings us to the end of the stream. I just want to say a big thanks to Dave for joining us. 1 year on since we did start this movie club podcast, whatever you want to call it. It's grown arms and legs. Who would have thought when we started this earlier on that we'd have 350 followers on Twitch, 1,200 on Instagram, and people that actually listen to us on our podcast as well. But thank you very much for being here. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you very much for downloading, and we will speak to you next week. Take care everyone. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Come on.